For nearly 4 decades, one man stood at the cantor of one of the most influential nations in the Middle East. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was not just a political leader; to millions, he was a spiritual guide, a symbol of continuity, and the guardian of a revolution that reshaped Iran's identity. When he first assumed the role of supreme leader in 1989, following the passing of Imam Khomeini, many wondered if he could fill such enormous shoes. He was a mid-ranking cleric, known more for his organizational skills than his theological rank. Yet, he went on to lead the country through wars, diplomatic challenges, scientific progress, and regional transformations. How did a young man from the holy city of Mashhad become the central figure of the Islamic Republic? What were the experiences that shaped his worldview? This is the story of a life dedicated to faith, service, and the vision of an independent Iran. Ali Hosseini Khamenei was born on April 19, 1939, in the city of Mashhad, the spiritual heart of Iran. His father was a respected cleric, and the household was one of piety and learning. From a very young age, Ali was immersed in religious studies. He began memorizing the Quran as a child, a discipline that would stay with him throughout his life. In his teenage years, he traveled to the city of Najaf in Iraq, another great center of Shia learning, before continuing his studies in the holy city of Qom in Iran. It was a time of intellectual ferment. The 1950s and 60s were decades when many religious scholars were discussing the role of Islam in modern society and the relationship between faith and governance. It was in Qom that he attended the lectures of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Khomeini was a respected scholar who spoke about the need for self-reliance and for protecting Iran's Islamic identity from foreign influence. For the young Khamenei, these were formative lessons. He saw in Khomeini a teacher with a deep understanding of both Islamic jurisprudence and the political currents affecting Iran. Khamenei became involved in the growing movement that opposed the Shah's policies. He began giving lectures and participating in activities calling for greater adherence to Islamic principles. This path was not easy. He faced arrest and was detained multiple times. These years of hardship, of being watched and restricted, only deepened his commitment to the cause he believed in, an Iran governed by its own people and its own values, free from outside domination. The 1979 revolution was a watershed moment. After years of struggle, the monarchy fell, and the Islamic Republic was established. For Ali Khamenei, who was in his late 30s, it was the realization of the ideals he had pursued for nearly 2 decades. He was not a man seeking personal power, but a servant of a new system he hoped would bring justice and independence to Iran. The euphoria of victory was soon tested by the outbreak of war. In 1980, Saddam Hussein's Iraq invaded Iran, beginning an 8-year conflict that would define a generation. Khamenei, who had been appointed to the Supreme Defense Council, spent much of the war near the front lines. He witnessed the sacrifice of Iranian soldiers and the resilience of the population under attack. This experience gave him a profound appreciation for national unity and a deep skepticism of foreign powers, many of whom provided support to Iraq during the war. In 1981, he survived an assassination attempt. A bomb hidden in a tape recorder exploded near him during a press conference. He was severely injured, and his right arm was permanently damaged. His survival was seen by many as a sign of his destiny to serve. Later that year, he was elected president of Iran. He served 2 terms during the war years, focusing on managing the country's defenses and keeping the government functioning under immense pressure. In June 1989, the Islamic Republic lost its founder, Ayatollah Khamenei. The nation was in mourning and faced a moment of profound uncertainty. The constitution provided a mechanism for succession, and the Assembly of Experts, a body of senior clerics, gathered to choose the next leader. Their choice was President Ali Khamenei. It was a decision that surprised some, as Khamenei was not the most senior religious authority at the time. However, the assembly saw in him the qualities needed to guide the country: deep familiarity with Khomeini's thinking, years of executive experience during the war, personal courage, and a proven commitment to the principles of the Republic. To facilitate his role, he was subsequently given the title of Ayatollah. In his first public address as supreme leader, Khamenei spoke with humility. He acknowledged the greatness of his predecessor and the immense responsibility that had been placed upon him. He presented himself not as a replacement for Khomeini, but as a caretaker of his legacy. The question on everyone's mind was whether he could hold together the complex system Khomeini had built. Over the following years, he would answer that question by focusing on institutional stability. He worked to maintain unity among different factions within the government and emphasized the importance of the Islamic Republic's constitution. He saw his role as ensuring the continuity of the revolution's goals while adapting to the challenges of a changing world. The 1990s were a period of reconstruction. The country was rebuilding after the devastation of war. Khamenei emphasized the need for scientific and technological progress, encouraging a focus on education and domestic innovation. He consistently called for economic self-sufficiency, believing that true independence meant relying on Iran's own resources and the ingenuity of its people. Throughout his tenure, he maintained a consistent presence in the lives of Iranians through his public speeches and Friday prayers. He used these platforms to address both domestic issues and foreign policy, offering guidance on how to navigate the complexities of international relations while staying true to Islamic values. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, Iran saw a vibrant debate between different political currents. There were calls for social and political reform. Khamenei, as the leader, positioned himself above the factional fray. He did not oppose debate but emphasized that all political activity must remain within the framework of the constitution and the Islamic character of the state. He viewed the system's stability as paramount, believing that division would weaken the country in the face of external pressures. His focus remained on the long-term goals, developing Iran's infrastructure, advancing its scientific capabilities, particularly in fields like medicine and nuclear technology for peaceful purposes, and maintaining a posture of dignity in foreign affairs. Throughout his leadership, Khamenei consistently used his platform to speak on behalf of what he called the oppressed people of the world. He viewed Iran's revolution as part of a broader struggle for justice and dignity for all nations who had suffered under colonialism or foreign domination. This perspective shaped his moral compass and his vision of Iran's role in the world. He spoke frequently about the Palestinian people, framing their cause as a fundamental issue of justice. He called for Muslim unity in supporting the rights of Palestinians to determine their own future. For him, this was not a political calculation, but a matter of Islamic and humanitarian duty. Domestically, he continued to emphasize the importance of popular participation. He consistently encouraged Iranians to vote in elections, describing the ballot box as a symbol of the republic's legitimacy. He believed that the system's strength came from the people's engagement, and he urged all citizens, especially the youth, to take an active role in shaping their country's future. He also addressed the younger generation directly, acknowledging their energy and their aspirations. He spoke of the need to preserve Iran's cultural identity in a rapidly globalizing world. He encouraged young people to be proud of their history, their language, and their faith, while also embracing modern knowledge and innovation. In his view, a nation that forgets its roots loses its way. In his later years, Khamenei witnessed both achievements and hardships. Economic sanctions imposed by foreign powers created difficulties for ordinary Iranians, affecting prices and livelihoods. He acknowledged these hardships and urged the nation to resist through resistance economics, a concept focused on boosting domestic production, reducing reliance on oil exports, and fostering a knowledge-based economy. He continued to emphasize that Iran's destiny was in its own hands. He called on officials to work harder to solve the people's problems and on the people to remain patient and united in the face of external pressure. His messages during this period were often forward-looking, expressing confidence that the nation would overcome its challenges through faith, hard work, and solidarity. Despite his age, he remained active in his duties. He met with families of those who had died in the war, honoring their sacrifice. He visited hospitals and health centers, showing concern for the well-being of the sick. He greeted children with warmth, seeing in them the future of the nation he had served for so long. In his final public messages, delivered just days before his passing in late February 2026, he spoke of his hope for Iran. He thanked the people for their trust and their sacrifices. He reaffirmed his belief that Iran would continue to progress, that its youth would lead it to new heights, and that its independence would endure. He passed away on February 28, 2026, at the age of 86, surrounded by the nation he had loved and served. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei's life was a mirror of modern Iran's journey. He was a witness to its struggles, a participant in its revolution, and a guardian of its system for 37 years. His story is not just the story of a leader, it is the story of a servant who dedicated his entire existence to the idea of a strong, proud, and independent Iran. To the millions who looked to him for guidance, he was the steady hand that kept the revolution's compass pointing toward justice and self-reliance. He encouraged science, defended the oppressed, and urged his people to remain steadfast in their identity. He leaves behind a nation that is more educated, more technologically advanced, and more regionally significant than the one he inherited. He also leaves behind a people who must now continue the journey without him. Whether in times of war or peace, of hardship or hope, his message was consistent: trust in God, trust in yourselves, and never surrender your dignity. His legacy is written not just in history books, but in the spirit of a nation that, for better or worse, he helped shape for nearly half a century. Thank you for watching this portrait of a life dedicated to faith and nation. If you found this documentary meaningful, please consider subscribing to our channel for more stories from history. We welcome your thoughtful comments below.